Hi, welcome to WGSN-DB Going Solo. This is a senior citizens forum that is being sponsored by Benefits for You Too Insurance Services, where they specialize in health insurance for people that are 65 and older, and insurance for people with certain disabilities. We provide Medicare Advantage plans, Medicare supplemental plans, and prescription drug plans. But today we're going to be talking about what happens if you have pre-existing conditions and you're in a car accident. And I'm here with Julie Liu, who has been on the show before.
Thank you, Janice.
And I'm so happy to have you here. Julie just has a brand new baby.
I do. I had my second daughter, 3 months old.
Yeah. And I just was looking at pictures of her, and of course she's cute.
Well, thank you, Janice.
Yeah.
But you know what they say, having a second child, it's not twice the work. It's more like 10 times the work.
Oh, yeah, it is. It is. And I know I have a 3.5-year-old grandson.
Oh yeah, so my son is my older child, my son is a year older than that. He's 4.5 right now.
Oh, he's 4.
Yeah.
And he has an 18-month-old brother.
Yes. That's a very
now
similar
it's real
situation.
cute. We've gotten to the point where now they look like they're pals.
Okay, that's good. I'm hoping to get to that point.
Yeah, I mean, it's very cute. Okay. So but we're going to talk about, Julie has been a attorney.
Yes.
For over 14 years
yes,
now.
This is my 14th year practicing.
Yeah.
My main practice is personal injury and employment law. So for today's purposes, we're going to discuss personal injury for senior citizens, especially scenarios that they might encounter regarding pre-existing injuries. I mean, that applies to all of us, right? We get to a certain age. We're going to have similar body parts that are going to be aching or similar complaints.
Well, it's aging, but you can be younger too.
Right,
We
exactly.
have younger people that we hope that
right,
are watching this show, because you can have what they call pre-existing conditions.
Correct.
And I never even thought about it. And so they started reading this, if you're in an accident and you have a pre-existing condition, and I'm going to go both sides of it. You could have caused the accident.
Right.
Or somebody else caused the accident.
Sure.
Right. So, but if you have a pre-existing condition, or if you have emotional issues, I don't know how to put it, and you have an accident and now it's made it worse.
Right. So that's what we would call exacerbating. So in the legal field, what we distinguish is between a causation and exacerbation. So insurance companies, especially defense insurance companies, they like to minimize the claims by saying that, well, we didn't cause the accident, we just exacerbated it. So you already had a diminished, quality of life because you're already treating for it. You're already suffering from, pains, neck pain, back pain, that kind of stuff. Those are the most common in car accidents, as well as slip and falls. So, for my clients, those are the most common types of injuries that we have: slip and falls, car accidents, motorcycle accidents, just vehicular accidents out on the road.
And we all see vehicle accidents all the time. I mean, well, especially Julie and I live in Southern California, so we're always on the road. And we started talking about this. I just had knee replacement surgery. So if I was in a car accident
and you banged your knee against, the door or the steering wheel, that would be a pre-existing condition.
And it made it worse. So now what do you recommend as representing me? What would you represent me?
So if there was a representation, that would mean that the other person was at fault for causing your additional injury. And we would try to prevent the insurance companies from trying to minimize your knee pain. So they're going to say, well, you already had a knee pain, you already recently had surgery, et cetera, but we would come in, through your medical records and say, hey, look, it was a while ago. She was doing physical therapy, she was rehabilitating, had reached a certain point, and now she basically has to start over again. We would go back into her records, and most physical therapy and medical records are very, very detailed. And, we would want to go through your records to make sure that everything is accurate. And we want to be honest. We're always going to be, that's the best policy. We want to be honest about what your conditioning, what your condition is. Because if we look back and you had your physical therapy session last week and you had rated your pain, a 4 or 5.
Okay.
But now you're saying, you're going to urgent care, you're going to emergency, or you're going back to your physical therapist and you're saying, no, this is a very, sharp pain and it's a different pain and it's an 8 or 9 right now. So we would use that to distinguish, look, this is how much it's worsened by.
Yeah. So that 8 or 9 means you're back on all those horrible
meds and whatnot.
Drugs,
right,
yes.
right. And you might even need to seek additional care, right? Obviously we would need professional opinion regarding this. So this would require additional, maybe an orthopedic surgeon, a pain management specialist, but someone is going to need to examine you and say, hey, look, prior to the accident, Janice was, heading towards, rehabilitation, and she probably would have recovered to pre-surgery condition. Right. But now she needs injections, she needs pain management, and we have no end in sight regarding how long it's going to take for her to reach that status.
Okay. So depending upon the condition is what how you're going to go about.
Right. And a lot of it is not, it's going to be based on your medical records. So I've had clients where, they have a pre-existing condition, they might have had back surgery a decade ago. But we're gonna say, hey, look, that was a decade ago. She or he has not had any treatment since then. So this is a completely new injury. This is not a pre-existing condition. And what makes it even better is if my client had that surgery, they're gonna have MRIs, right? They're gonna have, all of these, radiology records that we can compare. So this was 10 years ago. This is now. And look at the, disc bulges, the measurements and all that stuff, and we can compare. So it really is in the detail as well as in the client's medical records.
That's always interesting. So what happens if you're in a car accident and you already have emotional issues?
Right.
Is that going, and now you're afraid to drive a car again?
Yeah, so that's emotional distress. I've actually had a client who was very young actually, and he had pre-existing emotional trauma. But he needed actually, consultations with psychologists as well as, a neurologist. After the accident, he just could not leave the house, and he was in his 20s. So obviously that is quite debilitating for someone that young who can't leave the house because of the trauma from the accident. It was a rollover. He rolled over on the freeway 8 times. So obviously there had to have been, he had to have concussion, he had post concussive syndrome, in addition to, psychological issues. So, in that instance, again, you got to compare and go back. Yes, he was seeking therapy, with the psychologist prior, but now he's on medication. He can't, hold a stable job. These are the additional claims that we're putting forward. And, the records or, the timeline clearly shows that he was able to hold a job. Now he can't. No sane person is going to want to give up their livelihood just to make a personal injury claim, right? So that's kind of, if you're putting, that in front of a juror, it's kind of common sense, right?
So this would go to court and an actual jury?
Well, whenever we litigate something, we kind of have that in mind. We're not trying to get there, but most cases you're kind of preparing it for litigation. Whether or not you actually take it to trial, that's a completely different story. But when you're working a case, you have to keep that in mind. What would a juror believe? How would they weigh this evidence, right? Because we can't have a case that's just he said, she said. It has to be based on the records, examinations, doctor expert testimony, that kind of stuff.
That's really interesting. Yeah, because for me as a person that, I've been a property and casualty insurance agent, but I've never did this part of it.
Right.
Okay. So what happens now? I mean,
right. So I mean, if you're making a claim and you're represented by an attorney, your attorney is going to make sure that you're, seeking all of the medical treatment that you could possibly need, because you only have one chance of making a claim. This is not like a tax return. You can't you can't, finish and then make a claim and then go back, because once you're done with your claim, you sign a release, or you sign, a settlement document that says, I'm not going to, bring forth any more claims, and I'm going to accept this payment as, full and, payment, and I'm going to release the other party of any responsibility regarding this accident.
Okay. Now, we've been talking about previous existing injuries.
Right.
What if you have something like rheumatoid arthritis?
Right.
And you go into an accident, and
that would be considered,
and it's going to aggravate the situation, which is already.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely, that would also be considered pre-existing. I mean, I have clients who have fibromyalgia, right? Some insurance company will say, well, that's not a real diagnosis, whatnot. But it's in my client's medical records, right? She or he has been dealing with that. She or he seeks treatment. And now, because of this accident, he or she has flare-ups, and it's clearly documented. So this is where medical records are especially important, right? Because this is, basically my client's medical history that tells the story of what was the condition before, what was the current condition at the time of the accident, and then afterwards. Because if there has been no treatment, there has been no flare-ups, then we're going to say this is absolutely a causation claim and not an exacerbation claim.
So I'm going to say, you need to go to the doctor if you have a problem in case you have
I mean, I urge clients all the time. I mean, if I have a referral and the accident just happened, if it's serious, go to an emergency room, get checked out, give me a call on Monday, make sure you're okay first. You never know when there's, especially when, there's rollovers on the freeway and whatnot, or head-on collision. I had a client who had a head-on collision and I told them, you need to go to ER, not urgent care. You need to go to the ER to make sure there's no internal bleeding. You need to get a CT scan of your brain to make sure there's no hemorrhaging or anything like that, because that's serious. A head-on collision is very, very serious. Luckily, he was able to climb out of his car, and he said he was fine. But I mean, to me, when I saw the pictures, I was like, this was not a small accident. He made it try to seem like it was a minor accident. I was like, your car is a total loss.
A total loss.
Right. So always seek, medical treatment if you're, not feeling well, or if you believe there could be, something else going on, because you need to have that imaging done to make sure that even if you're not outwardly bleeding, you might have internal damage. Right. And if you have pre-existing conditions like a heart disease, anything like that, definitely go to the ER.
I mean, so I'm going to take it a step further. So if you have heart disease and you have a heart attack because of a car accident, okay, and I'm going to go farther than that, and then you pass away, what recourse does the family have after that?
Well, I mean, that's going to be different. That wouldn't be the deceased individual making a claim. That would be his estate making, a claim.
Oh, okay.
Right. So that wouldn't be a personal injury claim. That would most likely be a wrongful death claim. But if that's the case, then you would probably need a coroner to do an examination.
Right.
You would need medical experts to say that most, more than likely that this is what caused it. That kind of stuff. But that would be a difficult case.
Yeah, no, it's very difficult.
Yeah, because causation is, we're going to have experts on our side. The insurance company is going to have experts on their side.
Because you see some of these car accidents, I don't like to look because it backs up the traffic, and I don't like going anyway.
Right.
But you see some of these happening, and I never think that, okay, there's a pre-existing condition there. May it be a medical one, or, well, they're all medical.
Right.
But besides limbs and stuff, there's other parts of the body that could be.
There's definitely trauma, like I said before, if there's more emotional damage is part of a personal injury claim. So if you had, mental health issues prior and you were seeking treatment for that, that's going to be an issue. So that actually reminds me of a recent case that I just settled.
Okay.
He had mental health issues prior to the accident, but he had never sought treatment for it. So it was in his medical records that he had been referred, but he never sought medical treatment for it. And then he sought treatment after the accident. But obviously the insurance company is saying, no, this is all pre-existing because, it's in his records. But we're saying, look, it was never to a point where it was serious enough for him to need to go see a professional. But after the accident, it had, caused him so much, pain, depression, all this stuff, anxiety, that's when he had to go see a professional. So, again, medical records aren't going to paint the perfect picture, but your attorney would be able to use it, hopefully for your benefit in making a stronger claim for you.
That's good, because those medical records are real important.
Yes, exactly. Very important.
And if you had the condition and you didn't have it documented in medical records,
right,
it could go against you.
Right. Well, yes, absolutely. I mean, like I said, nobody wants a he said, she said kind of claim, right?
Right.
Because to take a case to trial, we're talking, 10, 15,000 on a simple case. Experts cost anywhere, from 2,000 an hour to more. You're not going to want to take that risk on just what you're saying. You want to have evidence that your experts can use, your attorneys can use to make your claim. So, medical records are definitely very important. But also a lack of medical records would speak volumes as well, because then it's not really a pre-existing condition, right? There's been gaps, in that scenario when the last accident you've been in was 10 years ago, or the last surgery you had was 10 years ago, but you haven't had to see any other doctors regarding that body part since then. That lack of evidence speaks volumes. It says, you got the surgery, you recovered. It hasn't been a problem since until now.
Okay. I want to go on with this, but it's time for us to take a break, because I do have something I want to ask you.
Sure.
But it's time for us to break for our sponsors, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. This is WGSN-DB going solo, and this is a senior citizen.
At Benefits for You Too Insurance Services, we believe knowledge is power when it comes to selecting the correct healthcare and Medicare insurance. Please contact us at healthcareoptions@benefitsforyou2.com or call us at 310-245-0332.
Hi, this is WGSN-DB going solo, and this is the Senior Citizens Forum. And we're here with Julie Lowe. You want to scoot back over so
sure.
we're both in here? Okay. Okay. And we were talking about injuries, pre-existing conditions, may it be health conditions, emotional conditions, which is to me is part of health, or during the break, we were talking about my old surgery that I had on my knee 45 years ago, and now I have a new surgery. And if I were in a car accident, the different things that a good lawyer would be looking at. Okay.
Right. So basically, since you just recently had surgery, you're getting physical therapy, I'm assuming.
Yes.
So basically, an attorney would come back and look and see, okay, well, she's getting therapy. What do those records say? Are they saying that she's making progress, that she needs, 6 more sessions? How much longer are they estimating that, you're going to need physical therapy for? And if you had an accident and, medical professional is coming in and saying, oh, well, now we need to go back in there and repair, then that's obviously going to be fully placed on the accident, not your previous surgery, because nobody had, said that you needed another surgery prior to the accident. So we would go and look and say, hey, look, she had surgery, she was getting better, and then she had this accident, and now Dr. So-and-so is saying that they need to go back in there and repair. So that entire surgery, all the rehabilitation that's related to that surgery, an attorney is going to be placing on the car accident.
So if you have a pre-existing condition of any kind, your medical records are real important. So we're just recapping really quick. So how do you decide what the damages are? So how do we make that decision? How was that going to happen?
Damages, it's a little bit more arbitrary. It is partially based on what your medical expenses are.
Okay.
How much, it's costs in rehabilitation, surgery. Like in surgery, it's not just, one bill. There's the anesthesiologist, there's the facility bill, which is usually pretty high. There's the doctor's bill. So all those bills combined with, your primary doctor, your orthopedic surgeon, any pain management specialist, that kind of, full records. What was the bill post-accident related to your recovery, right? So there's that amount, and then there's the the pain and suffering portion of it. How did that accident, your rehabilitation, how did that affect your day-to-day life? If you were in rehab but you were able to socialize, go out to dinner with your friends, go travel, which I know you love to do.
Oh, I love to travel. I was going to say, what happens if
so
if I had this fancy cruise?
Exactly. So we would get your receipt for the cruise and say, hey, look, she had this cruise booked, but she couldn't go because she had to prepare herself for surgery. So that would be added on to your pain and suffering, your nightly walks or any other activities that you can't do.
Right.
That kind of adds to it. But, to put a number to it, that's kind of hard because, we're not, there's no, legal case out there or, statute that says, okay, well, you can't do this. That's $25, right? You can't do that. It's an overall, and it's a case by case basis, based on your records and then how your life has changed because of your injury.
But it's good. It's not like I use the word cookie cutter a lot.
Right. No. And if anyone, a lot of personal injury bills, I think there's a misconception out there. People call and they're like, okay, well, it's split a third. I hear that so many times. I'm like, where are you getting that magical third, formula from? Because it's not. If you have all these doctor bills, how are you assuming that they're all going to take only 1/3 of your recovery? That's not how it works, right? So that's always a sign that the person either has spoken to a personal injury mill or they're just not very well informed regarding that, because your bills are going to be what they are to have you recover or reach what's called a maximum medical improvement. We want you to get there. We want you to get to a point where you're like, hey, you know what? I don't think I need any more doctor's visits. I think I'm fully recovered. Or a doctor is going to say, hey, look, Janice has been treating with us for 9 months now. I think she's reached a point where this is just status quo for her. She's not going to get any better.
Okay. So hypothetically,
right.
I'm going to hope I'm not in a car accident. Okay. But if I were in a car accident and this is the time of year I'm really busy working and I can't go out and work like I normally work. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So are you going to take into account, my wages? I don't know if that's the right word.
Right. That's a loss of wage claim or loss of earning capacity. For very serious injuries, there's also a claim for loss of earning capacity because, especially people who, use their limbs for their jobs and can't do that anymore because of their injury. Like they can't, for example, someone who works in construction or a trucker, they work long hours. If they suffered back injury or they need surgery there, that's going to affect their earning capacity because they're not going to be able to drive cross country. They're not going to be able to work heavy machinery. So that's where a loss of earning capacity claim comes in. Lost wages claim is very common. It's not just, missing work. Like, sometimes, you have to take off months off for recovery for surgery, or you have to take off time to go to your doctor's visits. Those all, contribute to a lost wage claim.
That's interesting. Now I'm thinking of another point too. Now, what if I am the caregiver of someone, okay? May it be my grandchildren or may it be, somebody else in my age group that I'm helping to take care of. Now they have to hire someone.
Right.
Is that considered part of that too?
Not for your claim. That would be the other person's claim.
It would be the other person.
Yeah, because that's not something that you had incurred. It's not out of pocket of your expense. That's the other person's expense.
Yeah.
So for me, I wouldn't take on that claim for my client's relative or whatever, because my claims are solely for my client.
Right. Okay.
Right.
But
there's actually in the legal field, there's actually a loss of consortium. So if that relative is your spouse,
right,
and you are not able to care for your spouse, like you used to, provide, whatever spousely duties, your spouse has a loss of consortium claim.
Okay. Because I know a lot of seniors take care of their grandchildren.
Right.
Okay.
Right. I've actually had claims where my clients were in similar situations, but we never brought forth a claim for
Okay.
the son or daughter that they were the child that they were providing care for, the grandchild.
So my other area that I would go into is that you have your insurance company. Okay.
Right.
All right. So when do I go to a private lawyer to help me out with you to have the lawyer from the insurance company helping you out?
So you would have an attorney representing you if you're on the defense side, meaning you're either liable for the accident or the other person is saying you're liable for the accident. So that's what auto insurance is for. It's because you have auto insurance, they are supposed to provide a defense attorney for you to defend you. For personal injury, if you're the claimant and you're making a claim, you're going to have to seek counsel outside of insurance. The insurance is not going to provide you an attorney to make a claim. So that's the difference.
Oh, that's the difference.
Right.
Okay.
So if you're making a claim, then you're going to need to find your own attorney. If if a claim is made against you, then your insurance is supposed to defend you.
Okay.
But there are instances that even though you have representation with your insurance, but you might want to seek your own counsel, is if your limits might not cover the damages on the other side. So for example, in California, the minimum is was it 15,000 personal injury and 5,000 property damage. If you have the minimum, but you cause a major accident or you cause an accident that involved multiple vehicles and it's not going to cover, your insurance is going to advise you, hey, look, your limits may not cover the damages in this accident. You might want to seek the opinion of outside counsel.
Right. And so how you decide what you have on your coverage, we have another show that we're doing with an insurance agent that's going to talk about that, along with umbrella policies. Yeah.
And I always advise everyone, if you have assets, you want, not even just assets, if you can, you need to get underinsured motorist coverage. That's a separate coverage under your policy. So uninsured motorist obviously protects you if someone hits you and runs off, or the person that hits you is not insured, right? Because likely if they're not insured, they don't have anything to go after, you're screwed. But you can go under your own insurance to recover anything that you may need for your vehicle or for your treatment. Under insured motorist coverage is if that person caused you property damage, personal injury, but they have a policy coverage that is not enough to cover you, then your own insurance would kick in to cover the additional amount. So for example, if you have medical expenses 50,000 plus, but the other side's policy limit was 15,000, you get the 15,000 for them, and then you get all the additional for your medical expenses as well as your pain and suffering through your own insurance.
Okay. Now, just really quick. Now, what are the costs? So if I came to you, and said I need to have representation, what are the costs of this going to be for me personally, or is it taken out of the settlement?
So for personal injury, in most scenarios, I think in all scenarios, I mean, I don't want to say all, but in most cases, personal injury is done on a contingency basis. So that means you don't pay anything up front, but your attorney is going to take a percentage for their fees and costs from your settlement that they get you. So that's why they're vetting their cases, right? Because they don't want to work on a case where they're not going to recover from, because they're basically working until they can settle your case.
Okay. This has been really interesting.
Thank you.
All those pre-existing conditions. And,
it's
how it affects. Now, just real quick before we wrap up, now what if I, as a homeowner
Mhm.
or a property owner,
Right.
okay, somebody falls on my property,
Mhm.
it's going to be the same thing with if they have pre-existing conditions, is that going to be?
Well, yeah, your insurance company will probably be looking to see if that person that's making a claim against you had pre-existing conditions, or if that fall, if it is your fault. There are instances, I mean, just because the person fell on your property doesn't make you automatically liable.
Right.
But there are instances where you might be, and your insurance company is going to come in to defend you. They're going to look at, their medical history and say, okay, well, was this fall really the cause of, the neck pain, the back pain? Usually if it's a broken limb, then yes, obviously, he or she didn't have a
Okay.
broken limb. But if it's, strain, neck strain, back strain, that kind of stuff, yeah, they're gonna look to see if what the medical history is there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I just thought that would be interesting there.
Yeah.
So even like, right now we're in a big office building.
Mhm.
So if I fell here,
Well,
is it my
depends.
fault or is it?
It depends
the
on the
property?
facts. It depends on the
Yeah.
fact. Did you fall because, you tripped on a rug or part of
Right.
the carpet that was not repaired? Or was it because of the shoes that you were wearing?
Right.
Right. So those are things that attorneys and insurance
Mhm.
companies and all that stuff are going to look for. Is it really, the
Okay.
office building's fault, or did you contribute to it with what you're wearing?
There's so many questions.
Right.
And as you can tell by listening to this is not cookie cutter.
It's not. Every case is different.
Everything is different. Which I'm glad it's looked at
Mhm.
that it's different, because my being an insurance person, I'm always asked, what is this?
Right.
Well, I don't know if you don't give me this.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Whenever I have consultation, everyone's gonna say, well, how much I'm gonna get? Well, I don't know. You
don't
haven't
know.
treated yet. You haven't seen doctors. I don't know
Right.
what your medical diagnoses are. I don't know what your, medical expenses are. I don't know,
Mhm.
what future medical treatment you might need. I don't know, what your doctors are gonna recommend. So,
Yeah.
it's always a red flag when people ask that up front,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
there's no answer to that.
So it's important to keep your medical records up to date. And I know we don't go to the doctor thinking we're going to have an accident.
Right.
Okay. But if you think you have a condition, go to the doctor. And there's just another reason why it's important to go.
Right. I mean, I think it's what people should take away from this is, if you were involved in an accident and you are injured, however small it is, you should seek a medical, professional to check you out.
Yeah.
Because if you down the road 1 to 2 months after the accident, if your condition worsens but you never saw a doctor, that's going to be an issue for you.
Okay. Well, this has been interesting and informative. Julie's been on the show before where we've talked about accidents and things from a completely different perspective than today. So please go back and watch that show, because you can find us on YouTube, you can find us on Facebook, you can find us on Roku and many other outlets. Thank you, Julie, for visiting with us again.
You're welcome, and thank you very much, Janice, for having me on the show.
Enjoy your babies. Yes.
Thank you.
And we'll hope to have you back in the future.
Definitely.
It's definitely been fun. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for watching. This is WGSN-DB Going Solo, a Senior Citizens Forum. Thank you. All right.